Okay, hello everyone. So, for those who do not know what this is a poll of maps voted on by players who generally place top 8 at major results. So, it's mostly anonymous here, so I'm not going to talk too much about the names. Let me change the chat box. So, in this case, like the votes are anonymous as to who voted for what. We're just looking at the general data. Hopefully, chat box is a bit easier to see on the background with this. Yes, and we're going to talk about the results of this. I did run this last time. It only got 15 responses. We got a bit more here. So we're going to cover them and talk about the results and what I think about them and stuff like that. So the way this works for the maps first is that you are allowed to pick 8 zones maps to vote for. In the other maps, you pick 5 for each mode. And that gets turned into this list where you can see what people voted for. The goal is to make a top 10 of zones maps, since it is the most common. We'll get to that more later. And a top 5 maps for every other mode. I will probably change the amount of votes for the other modes to 4, because you can still get a top 5 with that. I don't think you need as many. And a lot of people struggled to find like a 5th map to pick for some of these modes, from some feedback I got. Yes, Arashi mentioned he voted for Bluefin Zones, and yes, someone else did vote Bluefin Zones, so Bluefin Zones got 2 votes. So, let's talk about zones first. This is probably the most heavily voted one. The only map that was completely voted on by every player was Mako Zones, to absolutely 0 people's surprise. So Mako Zones would be the first most voted. Second most voted is Mahi Mahi, no surprise given the rework. Hagglefish Market, probably a little bit more popular, but makes sense. And Robo Ramen is the new one. I personally think that Robo Ramen is the best map in the game. I'm willing to bet that given a bit of time of playing on it, it's probably going to pull higher next time. You know, it is still a little bit new. So, I think as people get more used to it, I think it's only going to feel better. But it's still pulled very highly. These 4 are very clearly the best zones maps in the game by the poll. And then 5th place would be Umami Ruins Splat Zones. So, that's kind of the top 5 right now by a decent margin, I would say, as well. That's pretty solid in terms of all modes list. This will generally be the type of maps you see, generally the stuff we've seen anyway. It is going a bit lower that things get a little bit interesting. Number 6 is Barnacle and Dime. And Barnacle and Dime has been like a bit controversial in terms of talks, because a lot of people find it very annoying on lockouts. It takes a long time to get in. There are a lot of key positions you need to retake, like top right, then you need to watch the left trench, get over to your stack, get on the stack, and then get the zone. So it takes a while to get in. But it seems like in this case it won out. People still enjoy how the map plays and feels on overall. 11th is Museum, another pretty standard one. Or not 11th. This is 7th, I think, yes? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, 7th. And then tied for 8th place is Humpback Pump Track and Crab Leg Capital. Again, not too much to talk about. Crab Leg has the drop problem, but it's a bit more open. Humpback is like the same thing, also has a drop problem, but another like larger map overall and doesn't suffer from the specials here. It's when we go to number 10 that you see things start to drop. We go from 10 votes to the next highest being 6th. And 10th is a 2-way tie between Undertow Zones and Inkblot Zones. Honestly, I'm not a fan of either of these maps. I think something else should have probably been this high. Maybe Shipshape. Or definitely not Brine. Brine got a lot of votes, surprisingly. I disagree with this a good bit. You're going to see that my opinions do not line up with the consensus of every top player, obviously, which shouldn't surprise anyone, but I'm pointing it out. Mincemeat almost got it. I would like Mincemeat as a counter pick option. So, I do that quiz. This is voted on by top 8 major placing teams. I'm sorry. Anyway, so if we were to try out like a zones only map list where we do like 10 to 12 maps, like we would probably cap out with like Undertow and stuff. If we were to do a bit smaller for all modes, you start to see the ones that are up higher here. For the most part, I think it is clear that like once you get past these two, the 9th ranked map is where it starts to be like, you can kind of see these quality drops in the poll where people clearly do not think as highly about these map modes as you go down. And then obviously we have some things that did not get a lot of votes. You know, I think Flounder Heights deserves a few, but I didn't vote for it myself, yes. And then some of these are a lot lower. And then you have some maps like Bluefin with 2. Yes, Bluefin is pretty unpopular. I hate to say it. I did mention when I did I didn't mention it because my Bluefin review didn't go up. It was the version with no audio. But yeah, Bluefin, I am one of the people who thinks a bit more highly about it. Why don't people like Zones Manta? You have to go through your bunker to retake pretty much every time. There's a lot of drops. It's a very stally map. It's very lockout heavy. A lot of factors to not like. Also, the mid-fight's kind of awkward. Anyway, that's Zones. Next up would be Tower Control. And Tower Control is one of the funniest here because you can, again, see that quality drop where, like, Haggle Tower, Inkblot Tower, Mako Tower, pretty, like, universally voted high. And then there's, like, a 6-vote gap before we get to, like, Museum, Shipshape, and Robo Ramen. Outside of that, the only notable map to talk about would be Sturgeon. We used to play Sturgeon Tower, and as you can see, as more better tower options got added, it dropped off. Manta actually passed it recently. Humpback got decent votes, and someone voted for Mahi Tower. I don't know who, but Mahi Tower gets a vote for the first time. I don't think that happened last season. And then Undertow's another one we used to see. These three have been talked to death. I do not like Museum. I personally hope that people do not adopt Zones Museum. I get it was voted for, but Tower Museum. I think Tower Museum is one of the most lockout insta-win maps in the game. The team pushing tower is such a drastic advantage between their ability to, like, take tower away, to be able to set up on spinner, the defending area on the left side being, like, a one-way drop with some uninkable glass and no terrain. But, like, the fact that this got that many votes probably goes to show how bad the tower maps are. And then you have Shipshape and Ramen. Ramen Tower is, like, definitely improvement compared to, like, Muscle Forge where the layout is similar. I think we will probably see some Ramen Tower in tournaments because it's a new stage. So I think TOs are more likely to put it in. Something players probably want to see. And then Shipshape is very lockout heavy as well. Very easy to win on. And we're still seeing it. So Shipshape would technically round out our top 5. But I would still expect to see some Ramen in tournaments with how new it is, given that it has that many votes. Yeah, you think Tower has a lot of zeros? Here's Rainmaker. You can see some pretty drastic drops in Rainmaker. Rainmaker also does not have an 100% voted map. Neither does Clams, but Clams is close. Rainmaker has Undertow, Scourge, and Humpback that are very popular. Again, standard for quite a while. Yeah, there's a lot of zeros in Rainmaker, guys. People do not... I think this is more than Towers. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, you can see there's a lot of horrible map modes in Tower and Rainmaker that nobody will vote for. So, Museum here gets 4th place. Pretty understandable. And then Hagglefish in 5th. Hagglefish and Crableg were battling as the poll got votes. This was very, very close. Possibly the closest run for anything in the poll. These two were, like, constantly passing each other as votes came in. But Hagglefish slightly more popular. I think Crableg's a little bit better. I really just don't like how Hagglefish feels, but a little bit more. Sturgeon so low? Yeah, I'm telling you, Sturgeon Rain is not... It's not like Splatoon 2. So... Crableg rose a bit in Zones and got a bit less popular in Rainmaker. I think it's still there in Clams, I have to remember. Ramen is pretty low here. This is the worst mode on it by far, though, so not too surprising. So, pretty solid top 6 before things drop, and Ramen's still comfortably 7th over everything else. Clam Blitz has Scorch Gorge and Museum at the absolute top. Scorch is, again, continues to surprise me with how popular Scorch, Clam, and Rain is. I still don't like this map at all. After that is a pretty decent drop before we get to Mako, which we actually haven't seen very many Mako Clams in tournaments. So, this is something that's kind of come back after being a bit less popular. It seems people want to try it out. We have Ramen over here, tying for 3rd place, still very highly. So, another map mode where people want Ramen. And then Crableg making 5th place, still with a good run. So, considering Mako is so popular as Zones, Tower, and Clams, typically we don't see Mako, which is why despite most map modes being 16 maps, I still think it's important to rank like what the 5th or 6th best map is. Because Mako usually, or maps in general, don't tend to be repeated more than twice on a different mode. So if we already have Mako Tower, because we need tower maps, and we have Mako Zones, because it's the most voted, then we probably won't see a lot of Mako Clams, and that's where, okay, we have Crableg would come in or something, as the 4th map, for instance. Now, dropping down lower is Umami and Barnacle, which actually tied. I think Umami is a little bit better, but these two tied. I think Barnacle is super Clam Blitz cheese heavy, but these both tie for your 6th place. And then after that, it just tanks into oblivion. Inkblot has so many clam spawns on plat that people hate it, despite the layout being mostly decent, which is hilarious. Undertow, like, barely is there. Haggle is there, but you guys can guess why people don't like Haggle. This is a map where nobody scores outside of Kraken. And then nothing else has a single vote. Oh yeah, Bluefin Rain got a vote, by the way. I haven't talked about Bluefin. Bluefin Rain got 1 vote. So, yeah. You can definitely see Clamblet still has a bit more solid maps than Tower and Rain, but you can see what I mean where like zones maps, obviously this has an extra 3 votes compared to the others, but even with that, there is a lot more of a spread of zones compared to the other modes. So, yeah, Manta is 0 too. Manta's like really dropped off. But Manta's like a map that'll tend to get 1 or 2 votes. So, yeah. That is all the map data. In terms of what we'll probably see, we'll see like when TOs discuss it, when I ping in the server about it and stuff like that, and we'll cover that at its own time. But that's what it'll be. Mahi Clams rework. Mahi Clams is better, but Mahi Clams has frame drop issues, so people don't even care about it. Mahi Clams drops frames all the time. Nobody wants to play because of that. Not even me. I've outshed it a little bit, and then the frames just dropped every time I would play the map, and I'm like, nope. Nope, we're not doing this. Frame drops are like the easiest way to make people never want to play a map mode. And Mahi Clams has it the absolute worst. I don't know what it is. I'm guessing something to do with water plus clams lags the game, but it's bad. So, anyway. Would it be good without the frame drops? I don't think it would be like top 5, but it maybe be like top 10. I could see it being higher. Hammerhead has 0 maps in other modes. What other maps has 0 in all modes? Hammerhead might be the only one, actually. Let's see. Hammerhead's... Sturgeon has a vote in another modes. Yeah, it's just Hammerhead, I think. I think everything else is a vote. Or does Flounder have none? No, Flounder also has none. Hammerhead and Flounder. Nope, 1 vote Eeltail Tower saves it. Flounder and Hammerhead are the only 2 maps with no votes right now. Brine had none last time, but Brine Zone's got some supporters since then. So, got 5 votes. I mean, I'm pretty okay with Flounder, but it's like... I would not vote it top 8, top 5. I think I would be the only person, like, really voting for it, so... Yeah. The more people play Flounder, the more it just does not work for this game, and the worse the rework looks, unfortunately. I still think it's okay, but, yeah. Never underestimate the ability of Nintendo to ruin a Splatoon 1 stage. Okay, we have ads, so I'll go over this question real quick for YouTube. How long do you prefer map list to be? The standard is 4 maps per mode. This is what pretty much every major is, and as you can see, that probably isn't going to change. 4 out of 5 people, actually more than that, like this, and most people would prefer who don't like this. Most people who don't want to do 4 prefer 3. There is one person who wants to do more map modes, but only one. So, I probably won't even include this question next. I don't think it's very interesting. And I think at this point there is a pretty good consensus that 4 maps per mode is pretty much what we've landed on for major tournaments. I really don't think it'll change for all modes events. In terms of like brand new even all modes, that's usually what we're going to see. So, Zones Only has become more popular. I kind of typed this up. Zones has become more popular recently. I talked about it a little bit, but it's mostly because of Cooler, which has hurt other modes with the specials respawning. Things like Crack and Cheese, things like the limited Rainmaker Pass, Tower Special Advantage, have made the other modes feel a lot worse lately. And then like we saw in the poll, Zones has a lot more better map modes to pick from than the rest. And so, the Zones Preferred rule set, which isn't new, this has been talked about a while ago, but I figured I'd bring it back, which is basically, Zones is the majority of every set. Zones is like 3 out of a best of 5, 2 out of a BO3, 3 out of a BO7, for instance. Or sorry, 4 out of a BO7. Zones is majority, but the other modes are still played. Most people would like to try it out. This is just to try it. This isn't to switch the format. 3 people said that they wouldn't mind it, and 2 people don't want to do it. 2 people really don't want to have to not do zones. But in this case right now, zones preferred seems to be pretty popular. Going later down the line, would you prefer majors be zones only, zones preferred, or all modes? Has a very interesting pie chart. We got Pac-Man here if this was yellow. Got leftward facing Pac-Man. All modes in majors, in terms of being split evenly, is down below 25%. 1/4 of people prefer all modes in tournaments. 8 people prefer that zones is preferred, so that the other modes are still there. And then with a very, very slight majority, I don't know why this is flashing, by the way. Forms, fix your... Is it because my mouse is over it? Why do you do this, Google Forms? Anyway, zones only, by 1 vote, has a slight majority over zones preferred. But again, very slight. So, I think it is worth trying a zones preferred list, considering most people are okay with it, and that it is a good compromise between having zones only and all modes. I think it's something we might see. I cannot wait to see the debate of, man, but if a team is good on zones only, they can't win, as if it's impossible to beat them one. If you can't beat a team 1 game out of 3 on zones, even if you can win the other modes, I'm sorry. I don't know. I've never agreed with that debate. We'll see. I'll talk about that more when it pops up. But anyway, compromise there. We might see more zones only events, like the Sendu Major was zones only, so that's there. We'll have to see what happens, but yeah. It goes to show, zones is getting a lot more popular at higher levels of play. And I think it's just, we'll have to see it. I think zones is the least lockout heavy mode in comp. Easily. Easily the least lockout heavy mode in comp. Whether it's the special advantage, whether it's how far people push, whether it's the map layouts, I think it's generally a lot better. And especially in the meta we have, like, it gets rid of things like Kraken Cheese, it gets rid of things like Vac Cheese, it gets rid of a lot of weaker map modes. I could see it. So, we'll have to see how people discuss that, of course, and if TOs want to try it out. Final poll! For single mode tournaments, what modes are you okay with? Which has been a very, very depressing part of the poll. I'm going to be honest with you guys, chat. I think this is the most depressing part of the entire poll. Zones only, of course, is fine, because zones only is very standard. But goddamn! What happened to the others? Yeah, Turf War has officially beat out every ranked mode. Yup. In terms of doing a mode-only event, Turf War got second. Some people were saying this was probably jackpot votes, and to be fair, a good portion of these probably are jackpot. They're really good at turf. They love turf. But yeah, Turf War meta seems like something people are kind of interested in right now. And in terms of like a single mode event, I don't know, maybe we'll see a bit of it. Who knows? I'm not interested. I think turf is shit. I would rather play any of the others. But again, my opinions do not match that of every top player. And here you go. Other people think turf is actually second in terms of running a single mode tournament, at least. Again, this is single mode tournaments. This is not mixing turf with the other modes. That would probably be way less popular. Anyway, outside of that, Tower and Clams are popular, and Rainmaker are less popular, and Rainmaker, of course, trails behind, which Rainmaker only has never been a popular format ever, but goddamn, it is probably in its lowest. And I don't really blame it for not being higher. But that is all the data collected in this poll. If you guys have questions you would want to be on for next time, then please let me know. I might add some stuff in the future. Typically, it's just questions I've asked players and TOs what they want to be in this poll. But I might bring it open to you guys if a comment gets a lot of upvotes in terms of something that you guys would want to see next season's poll. This is ran once a season, a bit after it comes out. I will probably do videos on it talking about the results and stuff, though, I don't know, it depends how much they change, so I guess it depends how much the 2 new maps are. In this case, though, you know, Bluefin, not popular. I was kind of hoping one of the Bluefin modes would see use. Maybe some TOs will still put it in, but it's pretty clear, like, from top players, it's not very popular. But it is good to see Ramen. Like, Ramen we will probably see in every mode but Rainmaker and tournaments. And, like, we'll definitely see in Clams and Zones. So, it's good to see a new map that a lot of people like. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of gameplay on it. I think Ramen is extremely fun to watch. And it's extremely fun to play. So, I am really looking forward to that kind of thing. But yeah, that's my coverage of the results and stuff. Thanks for watching.